Good morning. Tuesday, August 21st, 2026. This is Mary Connolly. This is a diary, and this is what's left of it because I had to rip the page out. But if you look very carefully here, TH, Theodore, and then Bundy. See? All I can garner from this, because Debbie made me rip it out, was that I wrote about it in my diary with the most writing in my diary, and it was on it says the 17th, and that's possible because we went to Daytona and came back. It also says bright red and talking to, but I can't, but I believe I wrote his actual name down. That's sad because I had his name right there, Theodore Bundy. Okay, 1967 June. This is my mom. See, she's holding a child. It's not me. It's not my half-sister. This is called Navy Housing, and it was at Kent campus, FSCJ, is a college. And when I first went to college in the 70s, they actually were duplexes before they built the red brick building. That's my mom. Okay. My brother was born in 51. So now we have 52 when he was 1 year old, and they went to Atlantic City. I think he's sitting in that boat. I don't know what they were doing, but that's Atlantic City. It's my mom and grandmom, Stelzer, from Philadelphia. This is the car that I drove in high school. My dad had that golden Palace, so I got to drive the 63 Bel Air. See the power flower, I see it on there now. Okay. And then for some reason, in 73, 73? Yeah. In 73, this is me on a Harley Davidson 100cc dirt bike that I had purchased, and my Chevy Vega in front of the house. Okay. So Debbie and I went up to Jeb Stewart, and oh look, here I am brooding about a year or so later. This is me when I was 14 going on 15, sitting behind the Parker's pool. Stanley Parker went to the University of Utah. There's no date on these. I wish it's a shame, but I can tell that I was about a year or so later, 14 into 15. Gradually getting away from the Debbie dramas. This is the summer of 67. August, we ran into him in early June at Jeb Stewart. And the problem with you people is you're not investigating it. You can look up Deborah Hogue Vitale, Hogue, and her sister is Vicky. And what happened was we had summer band. We walked up there. I had my clarinet. Debbie had her oh, wait a minute. I've got to read you something, message. Hang on. If I can get onto Facebook. Oh, please let me get into Facebook. Let me go here. Hang on. I'm trying to get to Facebook. I don't know how that's going to work on here. Hang on. Maybe it'll recognize me. Praise God, I hope it does. Okay. Please let me get into Facebook without having to sign on to anything. Oh, hell no. I don't know my password. All right. So, anyway, Sylvia Mock wrote me on Facebook. Maybe I could just go into Messenger. I don't know the password. All right, that's going to have to wait. Sylvie wrote me on Messengers. She was a third person that went to Jeb Stewart that summer to take summer band, and she wrote me on Message, and I have it on my phone, which I can't show you. I wrote her and I told her the whole story, that we had run into Bundy and that we had a ride with him. And I told Debbie, maybe you better ride with Vicky next week because I was going to Daytona. What I think happened is during the class, Debbie took a break down the hall, whatever she did, and she complained of her foot. She was wearing sandals, and I think they were cutting into her foot. I'm extrapolating. It had to be some reason, and he was there. Why he was at Jeb Stewart, I don't know. I have no idea in this world, but she may have run into him. He was a GQ looking guy, cosmopolitan, right? Short hair, khaki pants. He may have said, I'm going to be a coach here, or I'm going to be an assistant dean of boys, or something he told her, or I'm going to play basketball today. If I see you out there, I can give you a lift. So he made an arrangement. So we're walking out to the front of the school. She sits at the bleachers facing the school. I'm wanting to go home because we're packing to go to Daytona. We're going to Daytona. I wonder halfway if Debbie wanted to go to Daytona. She was wearing a white peasant top, shredded jeans, and some kind of sandals. She had her hair in a bob. We sat on the bleachers. I said, I'll try to catch a ride, or I'll hitchhike. I think I said I'll try to catch a ride, and I thought maybe one of the older boys from the neighborhood would come by. The reason I said that I thought they might come by is because that school a couple years earlier had been the high school, and there was a body shop, and there was a basketball court. There was a basketball court in the new gym. I think there was a new gym, and then there were also some basketball hoops on the pine trees in front of the school, where a lot of old model cars were, like Chevy Suburbans, Chevy Safari wagons, Ramblers, old short Ford motors, some older cars even that were roundish, you know what I'm saying, like hot rods. That's what the guys had. Guys did not wear shorts unless they were doing some type of gym activity. Anyway, I wanted to go home. But anyway, so that story's over. The following week, I believe, Sylvia Mock Dexter was walking home, and a couple times at the lowest point on Wesconet, by a ditch, with a culvert and a guardrail, some guy would come right there, and he would ask her, do you need a ride? I can give you a lift. Now, me and Debbie was riding with Vicky, or she skipped. I was out of town for the week. Sylvia was alone, dark hair, black hair, because she and her two sisters had dark hair like that. Okay, maybe even darker, actually. And she told her mom. So the next day, during summer band, her mom parked on a dirt road besides near that culvert, where the lowest, we don't have hills in Florida, but this on Wesconet, it does dip down, and there was a cow pasture, there were no businesses, maybe a hair shop on the very first, as you're leaving the school, but this guy approached her, and he kept asking if she wanted a ride, and she said no, and she left, and he told her mom about it. Her mom parked on the dirt road, and Sylvia waited in the car. Well, Sylvia was walking, and yet again, and she says in the text, in the message, he approached again, and her mom came rushing out from the tree area and told him to get the heck out. They ran back to the car. They followed him to a furniture store on 103rd and Wesconet, and she confronted him. Sylvia doesn't remember what he looked like, doesn't remember the car, but it is so Bundy-esque to find the most vulnerable place from leaving that school would be right along that ditch area. You dip down, 2-lane road, there's a culvert. If you tried to jump over it, you'd have to go down 10 to 15 feet down to a concrete ditch that only had a little bit of, you'd break your neck going down there. And then that happened probably the week after. And I always thought, well, that was a different incident. And how then, what I'm saying is there are things in my relationship with Debbie as a child. I knew her 10 years, but gradually, I guess maybe she went to Ed White for her last year. I don't remember. All I know is she was suddenly not in high school. Jeannie became pregnant. Jeannie was a liberal and a feminist, and went to Atlantic City to the beauty contest in '68, I believe, and burned her bra, and then she turned up pregnant. And then Debbie's mom would call my house and says, we don't talk about the boyfriends. And I thought she was talking about a reference with Vicky's boyfriend. Vicky had a Valiant. Jeannie had a Mustang. Things happened that were behind the scenes. I never thought about the guy again. As time went by, my brother went to Vietnam. Walter, the neighbor, went to Vietnam. Was involved with high school, get out of high school, track team. I didn't think about the weirdo. In my mind, I thought, well, this guy, he looked real nice. He had a good haircut. He was nice looking, like a young Rob Lowe, I would say. And he had a nice vehicle. He had a bright red Volkswagen. And he said his name was Theodore Bundy, but I didn't play it out any further than that. Now, law enforcement say, well, why did you do that? Everybody said no. Debbie didn't want to get in trouble because there were custody battles. And her and her mom was divorcing. Her mom was a maitre d' in the heart of Jacksonville. Jeannie worked at Bell South. Vicky and Debbie, I believe, eventually went into nursing, and they got a semester in Austria. Somewhere in there in the 69, 70, somewhere in there, either Debbie got a high school semester and Vicky got a college semester to go to Austria because her father was commander at NASA. And she said she learned to ski. When they first said ski, I thought they meant water ski, but she said she had to learn to ski. So that fits in line with him saying he was going to be a ski instructor. And also Ann Rule, Bob Keppel, and several of them says the period from 1965 to 1970 or so was fragmented, and he did not like to be tracked. He did not like to be followed. Y'all say, oh, these guys started at 28. That's kind of BS, because I've been looking at some of this stuff. If you look at Kemper, if you look at Gary Ridgway, things started happening more like when they were 15 or 16, to tell you the truth. If you have a burglary charge at 16 or 15, whatever time Bundy was that was expunged, it says that those people have 8 or 9 previous, or up to 50 previous burglaries before they actually get caught. Okay? Anyway, I will read this diary later, and I picked up the pace, didn't I? My mom gave me this. I say, we were hitchhiking, but when the guy stopped, we ran away. I went to see the Monkees, 67, January 1st. Happy New Year. Today, I helped Janice take down her Christmas supplies. I broke Karen's finger in the door. Well, that was true. I don't know why her hand was in the door. And I played Monkees record. 67, well, today I played with Kathleen's cats, and we played Kick the Can. And tomorrow we have to go back to school, January 2nd, 1967. All right. Okay, 66. Today at our new school, we just got a gym teacher. 66. Tonight, I didn't come out of my room because I made an E. I was not a good student. I tell you the truth. I'm slightly autistic anyway. 66. We went to the duck farm and played with the ducks. Debbie asked me to go to the movie. 67. I went to see a movie at Cedar Hills Movies. I didn't remember that. Okay. And then today at Sunday, our teacher laid open Saturday, but could go on a boat ride. Okay. Today I got to give a current report in history, 67. All right, I'm going to leave it there at that. And as I go through, this is how I determined we went to Daytona. It took me forever to figure that out. Okay, thank you. We went to Daytona right after the incident. That left Debbie. I was away for 10 days. It was Saturday, Sunday, Monday through Friday is 5, 6, 7, 8 or 9 days before I seen Kathleen and Debbie again. And then I said, I wrote in the diary, and Debbie says, no, you can't write in the diary. Your mom will read it, and we'll get in big trouble because you hitchhiked. You know what? I'm going to stop for a minute. If I had said, Mr. Deckel, if I had said, no, Debbie, it's just pretend one more time, and I had had the willpower and not got in that vehicle, Debbie would be dead. Okay, no multi-million biotech industry, no 2 daughters, no husband, no life, no RN, no BSN, none of it. She would be dead. You understand that, Jeannie? She would be dead. If I had said, like Kathleen, no, I'm not getting in a car with a stranger. If I had said that to my mind one more time, instead I got in. If we got to La Moya and West Gannett and Debbie had jumped out of that rental VW, then I would be dead. He displayed a gun. He displayed a revolver to the ceiling, and he went wacko. He had, up till then, he'd been a soft-spoken, nice-looking, cosmopolitan type good, older than I would have ever, but I said, okay, this is all right. We're just going to get a ride home. Strangely, we got off at the gas station at Blanding and Harlow. Okay, thank you. But I'm just saying, I would have always thought it was my fault, but I'm sure they would have investigated and maybe they would have realized that she met him during break, because that's what I know happened. That's another little secret. I don't like secrets, Debbie. I don't like secrets, and I know there's more to the story because I believe he called the family and the crazy mother. I'm sorry to say that, but your mom was off sometimes. I mean, let's be honest. She may have bought his BS and said, I was just trying to scare them kids. I'm a law student. I'm going to be a policeman. I'm going to be with the Department of Defense or something. He told them I'm going to Palo Alto, and she bought it. And then maybe Jeannie had a relationship with him. I don't know. All right, thank you. But I think it needs to come out because they keep saying, Mr. Hagmeyer, they can't fill in those places. I'm trying to help you fill it in. Okay, thank you.